My name is Samuel Reynolds. I live in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm an astrologer, and I have spina bifida. I was born with it. I have what would be described as spina bifida occulta, a low lesion. Uh, and so I want to thank Layla for inviting me to talk to your class, excuse me, about my relationship to it, especially as it concerns occupational therapy. Now, I must say, I haven't ever officially had occupational therapy beyond going through vocational rehabilitation, or I should say, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, specifically when I was in graduate school. And I was in graduate school at Temple University pursuing my master's and my PhD in African American Studies. I did not finish my PhD. I graduated with the master's. And this would have been from 1989 to 1992. So I think that's been pretty much like the key thing. But what I would say that I find compelling related to the questions that you've asked, how any clinical features have impacted and what is important for you related to my spina bifida and how you occupy my time or how I occupy my time. I'm a full-time astrologer, and how spina bifida has been present in moving toward that is, I would say, that my choices have been informed by some aspect of my limitations, which are pretty specific. Um, I have to regularly self-catheterize every 4 to 6 hours, um, except when I'm sleeping. So that requires frequent bathroom breaks. I cannot stand for long periods of time comfortably. So that would be another thing, because I also was born with club feet and that was corrected. But still, it's hard on my feet. So that meant there were just certain jobs, certain occupations, certain paths that were really never an option. So the idea that I could go some other path other than through some aspect of schooling, and this is before the age of the internet, where you could just like kind of have your own gig. Like, I didn't go into college with the plan of being an astrologer. Um, so the idea that I needed to have a job where I wouldn't have to stand for long periods of time, and I would be able to be more on my own schedule to take the bathroom breaks and different things I needed, became clear to me and to my family. So the professor, the idea of the professor, a teacher, was the key way in which that happened. So going to college allowed me to kind of deal with particular questions, particular, life questions, big questions in life, even culture and society in terms of how things work. So that kind of directed me in that particular way. One thing I learned very much later in life, more like 27, I'm 52 now, was that spina bifida also has been shown to have a correlation with some people having problems with math. Um, and I did have problems with math um, pretty much through my elementary, I won't say my high school years, but at times it was difficult. So that also kind of shaped where I didn't, go into a particular occupation that was math heavy, where I didn't feel comfortable. Funny enough, I got beyond that. Astrology can be very math heavy, even though there is a lot to it that's more symbolic and philosophical. But that math expertise came a little later. Um, so that's one of the things that I recognize, and how I got aware of that at 27. One thing I want to mention pretty quickly is that at 27 years old, I had the opportunity to speak to young adults who had spina bifida in Philadelphia. And they had a club there, and someone who had heard me speak asked me to speak to the young people. And it was mind-blowing and eye-opening because I had not really encountered or talked to too many people who had spina bifida. Growing up, I did go to a special needs camp for a few years. I was in a few support groups, but they were a mixed bag of people with different quote unquote disabilities and physical challenges. Not anyone I can remember who had spina bifida. So when I talked to my own in 27, what was eye-opening about it is that their questions, their concerns were very different than mine, and I didn't live with the same things that they had lived with. Um, Meaning, the questions I got were like, well, you have a girlfriend? You live by yourself? These are things that, my idea of normalcy, because of how my parents raised me, were more readily accessible, even though I was also keenly aware of my limitations. But either I would push beyond my limitations, which is not something I'm saying should be true for everyone or can be true for everyone. And sometimes it wasn't even smart for me to push beyond, in terms of whether I was standing or running or trying to do things like the normal kids. And anyway, when I met with them at 27, it really was a significant moment for me because I was like, oh my God, all the things I have taken for granted and all the things that I haven't really acknowledged about myself, about having spina bifida. So I had done research before speaking with them, and that's when I even learned I had spina bifida occulta, as versus like I didn't know that there are people who actually had a whole physical holes in their spine. That was something that was said early on to me by my mother, that you had a hole in your spine, and I was like, what are you talking about? And it wasn't, it was more like a gap along my vertebra, a very small one and low, but not the same as having a physical hole that I know many of you know that um, people, young people, children have. So it, what I can say now in terms of what has shaped, my day-to-day life, what's important to me is that I am an astrologer, someone who pretty much gets to sit most of the time and talk with people around the world and, occasionally speak. And even at those times, I only have to stand 75 minutes to 90 minutes at a time if I'm doing a lecture. And even then, I know I have the option of being able to sit down. I've constructed a life that's that works for me. That's allowed me to kind of earn an income, um, achieve some measure of notability and esteem in my field and in the world. I've appeared on some television shows like Bill Nye Saves the World and Netflix Explained, um, and other radio appearances, things like that. I say that to say that it's it's more so my mindset has helped me find a way that supports um, my limitations without being a victim or prisoner of my limitations. So I don't know if that's informative or helpful to the class, um, or to the program. Um, so that's kind of what that's all I have to say. This is unedited so that I can get to Layla in time. And I hope I haven't just spent 10, 15 minutes rambling. Thank you.